Of the 20 species of wild pig found natively across 5 of the world's 7 continents, arguably the most unique is found in Africa. The red river hog is the only species of wild pig to feature such a vibrant coloration, which changes considerably with age. Piglets exhibit a dark brown coat with light stripes, and are not too dissimilar to those of the wild boar. As the piglets age, this juvenile coloration quickly gives way to their red fur, and the white line across their back begins to develop. Although adult coloration can vary based on their range, most have a black facial mask with white highlights, and the males of the species develop warts on the side of the snout, which are said to be a defensive feature and look similar to those of the warthog we'll meet later on. This species is found across 19 countries in Central and West Africa, where they live primarily in forest habitats. The name red river hog comes from their tendency to cool off in rivers and swamps. This species is omnivorous, feasting on a wide range of plant material in addition to birds' eggs, carrion, and even domestic animals. The red river hog is sometimes known as the bushpig, but shares its genus with one other member, which is unique both in appearance and distribution, and is known exclusively as the bushpig. The bushpig can also exhibit red fur, but is usually much darker and features a white facial mask with a thick mane that runs from the top of the head and onto the back. Their tusks are small but sharp, growing up to 7 centimeters, and in similar fashion to the red river hog, males have large warts on their snout. The bushpig is found throughout East and Southern Africa and is present at the highest elevations of any pig species at up to 13,000 feet on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro. This species is predominantly nocturnal, but is known to forage during the day in the cooler months. They are considered to be pests in part of their range, causing damage to agricultural land and passing on tick-borne diseases to livestock. The bushpig is the second of 6 pig species we'll explore in Africa, the third of which possesses the most impressive facial features on the continent. The warthog is named so for the multiple sets of particularly large warts that protrude from the side of the face and snout and can be up to 15 centimeters long in males. The tusks of the warthog are also impressive in the world of pigs and are rivaled only by the world's most beautiful animal that we'll meet later on. The life of a warthog is a treacherous one, and in addition to wild dogs, leopards and cheetahs, they are most often preyed upon by lions. To thwart these enormous felines, warthogs use burrows, but instead of digging their own, commonly use abandoned aardvark burrows, which they utilize for various reasons. Being diurnal, these burrows are used to sleep during the night, and are also where female warthogs give birth and raise their young. Breeding occurs on a yearly basis. The exact time of year depends on their location, but occurs after the rainy season. Gestation is the highest of all wild pig species at up to 175 days, or just under 6 months. Offspring can number between 1 to 8, but is usually between 2 to 3. Piglets emerge from the burrow at 6 to 7 weeks old, and won't be fully weaned until around 5 months of age, and won't become fully independent for 1.5 to 2 years. Warthogs are predominantly grazers, but are classified as omnivores and will eat a wide range of foods including carrion. In order to feed, warthogs drop to their knees, and true to their pig lineage will also use their tusks to dig for items underground, such as bulbs. The common warthog has the largest distribution of the pigs on the African continent, found in 39 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, with the exception of the Congo, the Horn of Africa, and parts to the south. There are in fact 2 species of warthog, both of which are very similar in appearance, but can be identified by their distribution and by several facial features. The desert or Somali warthog is found in just 3 countries in East Africa: Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia. This species was once found in South Africa, where it was known as the Cape warthog. However, this subspecies is now extinct. The males of the species are the easiest to distinguish from the common warthog, exhibiting warts that curve towards the end, in addition to swollen areas underneath the eyes. These features are not pronounced in females and juveniles, however the ears of all members of this species have curled tips, in contrast to the erect ears of their common cousins. The desert warthog is one of only 3 pig species not present in forest habitats, found most often between savanna and shrubland ecosystems despite its name. Existing along a similar latitude, there is one more species to discover in Africa, which is also one of the most impressive. The giant forest hog, also known simply as the forest hog, weighs up to 605 pounds and is widely regarded as the largest wild pig species in the world. It is particularly easy to identify, exhibiting a dark coat and large tusks in addition to its size, and the males of the species exhibit large cheek pads which contain scent glands. As the name suggests, this species is found predominantly in forest habitats, including montane forests up to 12,500 feet, and can be spotted grazing alongside the common warthog where their ranges overlap. Groups of forest hogs are known as sounders and usually number between 6 to 14 individuals. In this species, the average number of offspring is particularly large, averaging 5 piglets, but can be as many as 11. At over 600 pounds, the giant forest hog is over 30 times larger than the smallest species, which is the first pig we'll explore outside of the African continent. The Pygmy Hog is by far the smallest wild pig species, weighing no more than 18 pounds, and unfortunately is also the first species we'll explore with a conservation status of endangered. It is found in the border region between India and Bhutan, although its presence in Bhutan is now uncertain, and the species was thought to number no more than 100 to 250 mature individuals when it was last assessed in July 2022. It is also the only species present exclusively in grassland habitats, being found only in Manas National Park and Manas Tiger Reserve, which doesn't sound like the safest place in the world. Thankfully, there are already several captive breeding programs in place, and with reintroduction programs beginning in 2008, this species currently has a recovery score of 8%. The Pygmy hog is one of only 2 species found on the Indian subcontinent, the second of which has by far the largest distribution of any wild pig. The wild boar is the second largest species of wild pig, weighing up to 600 pounds, although there are reports from hunters of wild boars as large as 770 pounds in China, which if accurate would be even larger than the giant forest hog. The native range of this species is enormous, covering 79 countries across Africa, Europe and Asia, and they have also been introduced to another 18 countries across North and South America and Oceania. Specifically relating to the United States, where feral populations of swine are a real problem, according to the US Department of Agriculture, in addition to being brought to the US in the 1500s, the Eurasian or Russian wild boar was introduced to parts of the United States in the 1900s for sport hunting, and today those found in the wild are either feral domestic pigs, wild boars or hybrids of the two, and are found across all southern states and certain counties further north. The domestic pig, which we'll cover in more detail in a future video, is considered by many to be a subspecies of the wild boar, but is given full species status by others. Regardless, when comparing the wild boar to other wild pigs, it is easy to see why this species has spread so quickly. The wild boar breeds up to twice per year, in comparison to the yearly cycles of many other species, which is made possible by a shorter gestation period of 120 days, compared to the 150 to 170 days exhibited by many other species, and the number of offspring is higher, averaging 5 to 7 piglets instead of the usual 2 to 3. Unsurprisingly, the conservation status of the wild boar is set to least concern, and as we follow its distribution into Southeast Asia, we enter a part of the world that not only contains the most species, but some of the most endangered. The bearded pig, also known as the Bornean bearded pig, exists on the island of Borneo, but is also found on Sumatra and the Malaysian mainland. The Bornean bearded pig marks the first of 6 species we'll explore with a conservation status of vulnerable, and their population is on the decline due to habitat loss and fragmentation. In Borneo, this species is heavily hunted and plays an important role in the diets and culture of the island's indigenous groups, and researchers are trying to find a balance between conservation and respecting the culture of local communities. In terms of size, this species is comparable to the common warthog, weighing up to 330 pounds. Litter size is usually no more than 8, but can be as high as 12 in larger sows. Piglets exhibit the same stripy coloration as many other species, which fades with age, and adults exhibit long hair around the neck and the snout, hence the name. This species is predominantly found in both rainforest and mangrove habitats, where they forage for a wide range of food. However, individuals who live in coastal areas also use the marine intertidal zone. There are in fact 2 species of bearded pig. In addition to the Bornean bearded pig, the Palawan bearded pig is found on several islands in the Philippines, a short distance from our next species of swine. Visayan Warty Pigs are described by the Los Angeles Zoo as the rock stars of the pig world, and for good reason. In the lead up to breeding season, the males of the species develop a long mane that even Elvis would be proud of, which can reach up to 23 centimeters in length. Despite their name, warty pigs don't display overly prominent facial warts like the warthog, but the males of the species do possess 3 small sets on the side of their face, which are thought to protect them while fighting. Piglets are born in dry season, which runs from January to March, and usually number 2 to 4 per litter. Weaning takes up to 6 months, at which point they transform into miniature rock stars. The Visayan warty pig is the only species in this video listed as critically endangered, and is now extinct on 3 of the 6 islands it was known to inhabit. They are, however, being bred in captivity, which is where all of these photos come from. The term warty pig can be used to refer to any of 5 species, all of which are found between the islands of the Philippines and Indonesia. In the Philippines, Oliver's warty pig is found to the north on the island of Mindoro, and the Philippine warty pig is found on the islands surrounding the 2 previously mentioned species. Heading to Indonesia, the Javan warty pig is another species currently listed as endangered and is found on the island of Java. And finally, the Sulawesi warty pig is found to the east, where we bump into our next and most beautiful species of pig. The Sulawesi Babirusa is one of 3 species found in a genus of pigs that possesses some of the most impressive tusks of all wild pig species. Despite being rather small for pigs, weighing no more than 220 pounds, the males of this species exhibit 2 sets of long tusks, which can grow up to 30 centimeters long, and rival those of the warthog, which can grow to a similar length. Both sets of canines grow upwards and curl backwards, and those on the upper jaw pierce the top of the snout. While tusks are used like a weapon in other species, those of the Babirusa are known to be brittle, and due to the long curve, they are thought to be used more for shielding the face. These animals are also known as pig deer, a translation from their Malayan name, which relates to the likeness of their long tusks to deer antlers. With short and sparse hair, this species also appears hairless, and their young lack the longer, stripy fur that is typical for many pig species. Some researchers believe there to be 2 species of Babirusa on the island of Sulawesi. However, the IUCN doesn't list the Bola Batu Babirusa as its own species. There are, however, 2 other Babirusa species located on several small islands close to Sulawesi. The hairy Babirusa is found on 3 islands east of Sulawesi, and the Togian Babirusa found on the Togian Islands in the Gulf of Tomini, which as a side note looks absolutely idyllic. All of the species discussed so far are members of the family Suidae. This family shares the same suborder with another family, Tyrsuidae, whose members are known as peccaries and are often referred to as the New World pigs, so it would be a shame to cover wild pigs without exploring their New World relatives. Aside from the Pygmy Hog, peccaries are much smaller than their cousins in Suidae, weighing between 90 to 110 pounds, and despite being visually very similar, the 3 genera included in this family are all monotypic, each containing just 1 species. The collared peccary is the only species in this video found natively in the United States, with a distribution that stretches from Texas and New Mexico in the north to Argentina and Brazil in the south. It is also the most common of the 3 peccaries, being the only species of the 3 to be listed as least concern. Piglets display a lighter coloration than their parents and exhibit their characteristic white collar from an early age. This species is found in a wide range of habitats, ranging from forested areas and woodlands to arid and semi-arid areas such as grasslands and deserts. Their diet is also made up of a wide range of foods and depends on habitat, but can be both plant matter and small animals such as insects and their larvae. Predators include large cats such as jaguars and mountain lions, which exhibit a similarly large range across North and South America. The white-lipped peccary is the most easily identifiable of the three species, lacking the white strip behind the neckline and instead possessing a thick band of white hair underneath the snout. This species has a very similar range to the collared peccary, found throughout much of Central and South America, but not extending further than southern Mexico. Herd size can be much larger, ranging from small herds of 5 up to hundreds of individuals, which make quite the racket moving through the jungle. This species is the smallest of the three peccaries, weighing just a few pounds less on average than the collared peccary at 88 pounds, and around 20 pounds less than the largest and final species. The Chacoan Peccary is visually very similar to the collared peccary, also exhibiting a white strip behind the neckline, but can be distinguished in several ways. In addition to being slightly larger overall, it has a larger head in proportion to the rest of the body, and also has a longer dorsal pelage. The distribution of these two species is also quite different. The Chacoan peccary is found only in a relatively small range between the countries of Bolivia, Paraguay, and Argentina. Its name comes from a region known as the Gran Chaco, a diverse region of lowland forests and grasslands famous for wildlife such as the pampas fox, which you can learn about in this video, exploring all 22 species of foxes. Thank you so much for watching.